Let's do it. All right, welcome everyone. So today we're going to be speaking with Jessica and Mariah. Jessica is the head of admissions, and Mariah is head of product at Thinkful. It's an online coding school that helps you learn how to code, UX, UI design, and data science. So I just wanted to say welcome, Jessica and Mariah.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yeah. Thanks for having us. Yeah, I know our community is really excited to hear from you. So what I was thinking is kind of like the agenda for today. I'll just spend about 10-15 minutes asking you questions about the program, your notorious like one-on-one coaching, the new stipends you've rolled out and scholarships and things like that, and how our community can take advantage of those. And then I'll open up time for Q&A at the end. All right?
Perfect.
Sounds good. So yeah, so maybe before we start talking about Thinkful, maybe you could just kind of give us a quick background about what you did before Thinkful, and like what got you passionate about coding boot camps and working in the space.
Yeah, so I actually have a background in sales and in SaaS particularly, but it was healthcare SaaS. And when I was looking for my next startup venture to jump into, I'm really interested in working with companies that have strong purposes, and Thinkful's mission is to make education accessible to all, no matter where you are, your economic status, or whatever that may be. Really accessibility is the driving force, which was a mission I could get behind. So that's why I am here. Mariah, what about you?
Yeah, so I've got about 20 plus years in working in a variety of different tech companies. And I've found my way to product through a variety of ways, but probably all along the way I was doing product somewhere. So when I used to live in the Netherlands, and when I moved back to the States, I found my way into ed tech, and I fell in love with ed tech. I was working with K-12 curriculum, designing curriculum for kindergarten through 12th graders to learn digital literacy, including skills like computational thinking and coding. And I realized that there was a huge need to also help not just our future web developers, but people who could actually be web developers today. And Thinkful actually found me, and I was really excited that they found me, because I really do have a passion for helping people accelerate their career and become who they really want to be. So that's how I got my way here. And I'm now the senior product manager of our web development courses here at Thinkful.
Yeah.
And I will turn on my video. I'll turn on my video for you as well.
Yeah, if I think someone asked if you can turn on your videos. I think it'd be awesome for folks to see you, and yeah, cool.
I may have to go back off video because I've got a 5-year-old who's about to come home from preschool. So if I have to turn my video off, it's because of her.
Okay, sounds good. Sounds good. Cool. So yeah, we'll cover a little bit about, we'll come back to product and what that looks like at Thinkful. But I think what everyone wants to hear about is like the notorious one-on-one mentorship. And I think that kind of goes deeper to what are some of the values that Thinkful has when it comes to education and your approach to education. So maybe Jessica, you could share a little about your education vision for Thinkful, and kind of how you're going to be helping retrain the future web developers.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you don't already know, that web development in particular doesn't have the traditional requirements. The need for web developers is so much more greater than we have people, schools teaching it, as well as students in traditional like colleges to learn it. And so that has created the unique moment in time that it really comes back to skills and proving that you know how to be a developer. So we really focus on not only teaching you specific languages, but also teaching you how to learn a language. And while completing the course, you are continuously building and creating a portfolio that you can show employers saying, look, I am a developer. Here's the work I have done and the work I could do for you. So that kind of gives you a leg up when you're going into those interviews where you get to actually show your work and not just a certificate or a degree saying I want to be this, but you can actually show that you are a developer.
Yeah, that's awesome. And something that's unique about your program is that you're fully online, right? And so can you touch a little bit on how that's different than what people might be used to, which is like traditional schooling where you have traditional classrooms. How is the instruction done on your end at your school?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a couple of different structures to our courses. All of them are online, which gives the added convenience that you don't need to travel somewhere or figure out how to make it to a physical location by a certain time. Really, you can work on the curriculum anywhere. We do have, as an example for our web development courses, we have 3 of them that have different structures. So one of them is very similar to a classroom style with an instructor and TAs Monday through Friday. I believe it's 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern time. And everyone logs in at once. You get matched with another student and do pair programming every day. Nights and weekends has, I believe it is 3 days a week. Mariah?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
3 days a week, that it's in the evenings that you are meeting. So if you maybe have a full-time job, you would be meeting after 6 p.m. to start the course. We have an East Coast and a West Coast, so one Pacific time and one East Coast time that starts for that course. Again, you're logging in remotely. We have a tool very similar to Zoom like this called Sessions. You can share screens, you can chat, you can see each other, read each other's body language and everything. So that also has an instructor and a TA with you each day. And then we have our Full Stack Flex course, which is more flexible, meaning you pick your days and times you're working on it. So maybe you have a job where your schedule fluctuates, like you're in hospitality industry, then that one would be a better fit for you because you would be able to fluctuate when you're working on the curriculum. You have access to your mentors, which are working professionals in the industry. They average 10 years experience. So these aren't new graduates. They're industry experts, subject matter experts that are going to meet with you twice a week for 45 minutes each session. But beyond that, we have technical coaching that is done through Slack. And then we have what we call Q&A sessions. And that's similar to this, but it's multiple students and a mentor. And we've got those it's more than 40 hours a week, including on weekends. They're pretty consistently going on where you can jump into those Q&A sessions if you get stuck and need some immediate help. But the curriculum itself, you would log into Thinkful, access the dashboard, go through the curriculum. It's text-based, but it is very project-driven and always supported live.
Nice. Yeah, it sounds like you've put a lot of thought into making the structure flexible for the different types of people that are currently looking to acquire these skills. I remember when I was going through a coding bootcamp in 2015, pretty much most of the schools were in person 3 months, and you had to put everything on hold and dedicate yourself for those 3 months. And now there's the full-time option, which is more traditional, like Monday through Friday. And then there's the nights and weekends and self-paced. Can you talk a little bit about the length of the programs and how does that vary between the different types of programs?
Yep. So currently all of our programs except for the nights and weekends are 6 months long. The nights and weekends, because you're doing a little less hours a couple times during the week, if you total the grand total hours, it's about 8 months long. So that's from start to completion. We do have a prep course for the class structure, so engineering, immersion, and nights and weekends. The Full Stack Flex course does not have a prep course because the curriculum of the prep course is already in the curriculum for the full course. We just want for nights and weekends and engineering immersion before you get pair programmed to level set that everyone's at the same skill level.
Got it. Cool. So basically, I guess like some of the differences that I'm hearing is with the full-time program, there's more of a peer programming interaction. So you're assigned a partner that you work with through different projects, like daily projects. And so I'm assuming they're using the tool Sesh, right? You mentioned, or Session to kind of collaborate. But with the self-paced program, you're basically doing it at your like when you're available. So a lot of the work you're going to be doing on your own, but you still get the support from the help, like I guess the technical help, as well as your scheduled mentor meetings, right?
That is correct. And we also have a study buddy program. So someone who wants to work with another student, we can try to match them with a student that has similar hours and availability. We also, if pair programming is something that you want to experience while in the course, your mentor can pair program with you. Once you've done it, you kind of understand how it goes. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I think that's really cool. And something else that I thought was unique about Thinkful is the communities you've built in each city. So even though it's an online program, you still want to foster that in-person interaction. So tell us a little bit more about which cities you currently have these communities in, and how can people learn more about the events that are going on?
Yeah, so cities that we have on the west are Los Angeles, San Diego, San Francisco, Seattle. Southwest, Austin, Dallas, Houston, Phoenix, and Salt Lake City. Southeast, Atlanta, Miami, Orlando, Raleigh, and Tampa. Midwest would be Chicago, Denver, Detroit, and Minneapolis. And then Northeast, Boston, Philly, Philadelphia, and Washington, D.C. And if you go to our website, thinkful.com, if you live within an hour distance of one of those communities, it will be in the header of our website. And we are continuously rolling out communities in additional cities that we haven't entered in yet. But the intention is that right now we have a calendar open to anyone who would like to come to one of our community events. It's open to people who are not even students or maybe students of other programs. We do things like quick little workshops, networking nights, things of that nature. But we also have a closed calendar for students, and we host what's called a student dinner or family dinner once a week. And that really brings all the students from all courses together to network. We'll also do employer nights. We will do demo nights where graduates or people who are close to graduating will start practicing demonstrating their capstone projects before they talk to employers. It kind of helps them refine how they present it. We also do workshops where we'll maybe have a night where we're going to do a hackathon all together and work on the same type of thing to help foster, community work. There's a number of different things we do, and the intention is in-person schools have that unique ability that you meet other students who are going through similar experiences as you. So this really allows that to be built, even though it's an online school.
Yeah, that's very cool. Something to like being able to learn online, but also having at least meeting people who are in the same shoes as you, who might be having similar insecurities or concerns, and you're able to voice them and kind of see that other people are also having the same challenges. That's something that was really helpful for me when I was doing Hack Reactor and other bootcamp, and just seeing other people struggling kind of made me feel a little bit less bad about myself, because I was like, if other people are struggling, then like it's okay to feel like you're behind. And I think I guess like the intensity and the pace is a big part of the bootcamp experience. So can you tell us a little bit more about like the pace of the programs, and what is the realistic time someone should expect to dedicate for the full-time, part-time, and self-paced program?
Yeah, definitely. So we are expecting for the engineering immersion program, which is full Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. type of thing. That's 50 to 60 hours. It's 40 hours in class, and then we expect another 10 to 20 hours outside of class doing homework, reading, preparing, working on projects. The engineering nights and weekends is 25 hours per week for 7 months. So it's a little bit longer, but it's a little bit less on the time requirements. Full Stack Flex has the unique ability that if you did the minimum 20 hours a week, it should take you about 6 months to complete the course. But because it's a little bit more autonomous, you're not bound to going at a class's pace. So if you wanted to accelerate and go faster by giving 40 or 50 hours a week, you could potentially shave time off. We just, after each large unit, we go through a technical eval. So as long as you're passing that and really have the depth of knowledge, we won't necessarily slow you down, and you could possibly complete it faster. But the average is 6 months. And that's the same for our data courses, data science, analytics, and our product design, because they're all flexible like the Full Stack Flex course.
Gotcha. So, so the other tracks are in the same format as Flexible. So it's self-paced with assigned mentors and things like that. And maybe you, Mariah, can talk a little bit about the other types of programs that you offer outside of web development.
You know, actually, it's funny you say that because I run the web dev program. So Jessica would probably be better suited to talk about those, but I could go into some depth of the web dev programs if we have specifically.
Yeah, maybe
one thing I wanted.
Yeah, maybe you could give us an overview of the.
Yeah, just one thing I wanted to point out with the different formats that we have with our web dev programs. Essentially, they all follow a similar curriculum. It's really about the time that you and the time you have available to put into them. And you know, so it's also your learning style. So with the nights and weekends and the engineering immersion courses, they do provide some more structure that's quite helpful when you get further along into the curriculum. And, you know, one of the things you just mentioned was seeing people kind of in the same boat that you're in helps you feel, it gives you kind of that team feel of, we can get through this together. So by, you know, as you progress through the program, having that structure can be really, really helpful. There's the flexible program is wonderful if you want to go faster than the nights and weekends pace, but you don't have time for the full time, or if you need a flexible schedule. But there's a lot to be said for having that structure. It helps you stick to a routine. And one thing that we really do say is you're going to do a lot better in the program if you spend 2 to 3 hours every day instead of trying to cram in the 20 hours of the weekend or 25 hours over the weekend. So, you know, having that structure can be incredibly helpful to help you progress, and having a cohort can be really, really helpful as you're trying to get unstuck. So those are things to consider with the web dev programs.
Yeah. I remember when I was learning, I think the biggest thing that I needed to develop was like the habit of doing some coding every day. Because if you leave everything up to just 2 days a week, when you pick it back up, let's say you worked over the weekend and you pick it back up on Friday, it's not as fresh in your memory, and then it takes a while to get back to kind of get in that flow state. And so even if you could spend, like, I think just in general, whichever program you do, I think spending at least an hour, like 30 minutes to an hour each day, kind of building that habit. And it's okay to miss it once in a while, but it's all about the habit building. And maybe Jessica, you could share a little bit about the UX program and the data science program and any other ones that might be missing.
Yeah, definitely. So I'll start with data science and data analytics. Data analytics is kind of what it sounds like learning how to be an analyst, working with really large sets of data. Think like really big, like the US Census and bigger, you know, and it's really understanding what the data says. I like to say that a data analyst is a storyteller. So they're collecting all of the information, deciding what data points to use, what to clean out, and then they learn how to create really cool visualization maps of the data or histograms. We've had some really great capstone projects that have been fun coming out of data, out of both the data analyst and the data science. So if you ever want to see some capstone projects, you can of course reach out to us and we're happy to share those with you. The data science one is what I call the Cool Kids Club. It's really diving into machine learning. So that's when you're going to start working on things that are like artificial intelligence, virtual reality. That's where the self-driving cars live. That's where really the kind of the future of automation and machine learning lives. So while a data analyst tells a story, I really like to say that the data scientist is someone who is creating things out of nothing kind of thing. So they do work with data. So some people, that you'll still need to learn how to like read the data and visualize it, but we teach it on a more shallow level because we're spending most of our time on the machine learning. We're data analysts, or the data analytics course, we're really deep diving on the data side of it and barely touching on the coding with SQL and other programs to visualize. So, and the other course is the UX UI, so the product design. Yeah. Which really, that one I love to talk to people who maybe you're on the fence about being a web developer, as in you think you're more creative, you really like front end but hate back end. Then UX UI is definitely something you should explore and look into because that really is where you're going to talk to users or look at data and make decisions on how to make like a website more accessible. Yeah. Do we put a button in the right-hand corner? Do we make it green? Does it flash? Those are all examples. I'm oversimplifying, but that's an example of UX UI.
Yeah. Can you explain for folks, so user UX is user experience and UI means user interface. It's kind of like sounds like buzzwords, but can you maybe give a few examples of what is the difference? And then does your course teach both, or kind of do you have like a concentration on one and then another course of concentration on a different one?
It does teach both.
Okay.
Yeah. So high level, a user experience is when a user goes to a website, what is their experience? If I follow their mouse around and they're looking for something, that is the experience, right? How easy is it for them to find what they need and what they're doing? And with what they're doing, what is their reaction? Is it getting them what they need? So that's a lot of surveying users or looking at data, diving into research around user experience, where user interface is really building out the wireframes and deciding based on the user experience information exactly what we would, how we would implement changes to make it a more enjoyable and accessible experience.
Mm-hmm. For sure. I think a good example is whenever you see like the red icon on Facebook that you got a new notification, or on Instagram when someone likes your picture, you get notified. A lot of the testing that these big companies do is they try to see like, let's run some experiments and see what gets people to increase their usage, what gets them to reopen the app. And so as a user experience designer, you'll be coming up with different hypotheses like, hey, maybe if we display a red icon in this place of the app, let's see if this helps get more people to click there, or get more people to share more posts. And then you would create like a hypothesis and test it. With user interface, you would actually be creating the like wireframe and the design itself, and kind of like being a little bit more hands deep, thinking about, should this be like a square button, or should it have round corners? Like, should it be, when you click on it, should there be some sort of like hover state, or should there be some reaction when you click on it? Things like that.
Having just to follow up on that, having worked in dev in tech for a long time, it's really, there's such a collaboration. So as a web developer, you're going to be running those experiments with the user architect, with the product manager. It's a very, very collaborative experience. So I spend a lot of my time looking at qualitative and quantitative data, working with UX, user experience architects, technical architects, and an entire development team to execute on those experiments, prototype, and then iterate on the things that actually are showing promise. So I think there's a lot of opportunity for all these different people to work together, and that's really kind of the fun part of being in this. It really is that collaborative community that you're building something together with.
Yeah, that's awesome. Cool. So let's jump back into the mechanics of the program and admissions process. I think something that is pretty unique about Thinkful is that you offer stipends for people that live in specific cities. And can you just talk a little bit about how the stipends are structured and how do people qualify for them?
Yeah, absolutely. So the living stipend is a new payment option that we are just starting to roll out. So we just this month added 3 new cities, and we will continue to keep rolling out more cities. So but currently it's available to any students who live within an hour distance of Atlanta, Chicago, Denver, Los Angeles, Minneapolis, and Phoenix. And the way that works is it's very similar to our income share agreement. You don't have to pay anything until you find your first job, and then it's 15% of your income after that. But the difference is the living stipend actually gives you some money so that you can pay some bills. It is only available currently in those cities and on the engineering immersion course, which is a full-time course. You cannot hold a job while taking that course because there's 60 hours of work that's really expected, 40 hours, which is a full-time job in class, and then an additional 20. So we really expect that students in that course don't even have part-time jobs, but are dedicating their time to this and this only. And so the living stipend is there to help them cover some of the living costs while they're in the course.
And then we offer the income share agreements with the nights and weekends format as well. But without the living stipend.
Yeah, cool. So yeah, I think the stipends is a new kind of I think it's been helping a lot of folks in our community who are looking to dedicate full time to these programs. And if you're going to be doing something full time, it's hard to survive without any income. So the stipends have kind of alleviated some of those pressures. Can you speak a little bit about the income sharing options as well? How are those structured? What are some of the terms, and which programs qualify for the income sharing option?
Yep, so income sharing option currently is available on our engineering immersion course and our nights and weekends course. It is very similar to living stipend, meaning you have to be within an hour distance of one of our communities. So Austin, Boston, there's a few other cities like Boulder, Colorado is included. On our website is all of the cities, and I can, of course, I will give everyone my email address, so if you want me to send you that information, I can as well, so you can check your city. But you need to be within an hour commuting distance of one of our communities, and it's 15% of your income for 3 years after you've started your employment. We do have some stipulations that are around you have to be 21 years or older, you have to be a U.S. citizen, live within the hour distance of the cities listed, and be able to commit yourself to the course. So you have to be able to complete the course and commit for the whole time.
Cool. And I think we have a few folks who are joining. I think they only joined Career Karma today or yesterday. If you could just give a high-level overview of income sharing and how is income sharing different than traditional student loans?
Yeah, so the income share agreement is actually not a loan. It is it is a payment option. There are some checks on your debt loads to make sure that you're not upside down in debt or have not paid previous school loans. But otherwise, it is not like an actual loan. It's a payment option. Where we do have a partnership with Skills Fund, which is a traditional third-party loan provider. So we do have other payment options that are more traditional loans with like interest, and you can pay faster for the interest. But really the income share agreement is there for people who truthfully can't maybe meet the qualifications of a loan, don't have a co-signer, those type of things. It's really set there so that if there isn't any option of making payments while going through the course, we can really hold off until you've been employed. And then we just will arrange a monthly payment, which works out to 15% of your income. And then yearly, we check in with each other to make sure it's shored up properly.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So basically, you don't pay the tuition up front. Only once you find a job, you start paying 15% of your salary. It sounds like for 3 years, correct?
Yep. For the income share agreement, it's 3 years, or up to 24,000, depending on which cap you meet first.
Yeah.
And then the living stipend, it's 15% for 4 years, and I believe the cap is 28,000. I would need to double check. I'm sorry.
Cool.
Let me check. I'll check for you.
Yeah. And the reason there is a cap, because let's say you end up having you end up getting a job that pays you 150 or 200,000 a year. You're not gonna have to pay them 15% of that high salary. The maximum you'll ever pay is like either 24 for the during the 24,000 if you're not having a stipend, and then sounds like 28 or something a little bit higher if you do have a stipend. I think someone has a question in the chat. Will you be denied if you already have student loans?
Not necessarily. We've had people who have student loans get approved for both income share agreement and for our skills fund loan option. It really comes down to what your debt load is and what your credit looks like. And if you want to talk about your specific situation even prior to applying, I would highly suggest going to our website where it says thinkful.com, and on there you can request a call, and we will call you within minutes of business hours, and we can talk about your particular situation before you actually apply to anything.
Yeah, that's really cool.
I have a question real quick.
Yeah, go ahead, Jordan.
All right, so for the stipend, is it only online? Can you because let's say I'm an hour away from the campus or like an hour away from Chicago. Do I have to do it online if I'm taking the stipend, or can I come into class too?
So all of our courses are online only. We don't have any actual campuses. The local communities that we have are additional networking events that we put on once a week for students to come together and help support each other and network. But we don't have any physical campuses. So if you were working on the curriculum, you're going to log into something that's very similar to this. An instructor would lead a virtual, discussion about what work is going to be done that day, pair up everyone, and then you would break off into your pairs and online together do your pairs while the instructor and TA kind of jumps in and helps you as needed. So it's very similar to being in a classroom, but it's just done from the comfort of your home or coffee shop, wherever you may be. The biggest difference is you can't reach out and touch someone. So other than physically shaking someone's hand, it's just like being in a classroom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you guys are fully online, so there's no physical classrooms. So everything we've talked about is online, so you don't need to travel anywhere. Cool. And I think the last thing I wanted to chat about is kind of like, before we go to the admissions process, can you talk about scholarships? And Timur shared with me that folks that apply by the end of the month and enroll before end of August to get a special scholarship from you guys for the Career Karma community. Can you just tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, actually, we, have worked worked with your students before, and we really believe in what Career Karma is doing. And so we'd like to extend to anyone who basically applies for a program before the end of the month and is enrolled by the end of August, a $500 scholarship. You just need to mention that you are with Career Karma. We should already know that information.
Yeah.
Share information pretty tightly, but just to be safe, you can let any advisor know that you're with Career Karma and ask about the $500 scholarship.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely take them up on it. So yeah, I wanted to chat a little bit more about the admissions process and like the important milestones in that. Kind of how does someone apply? Since you're one of our early fast track partners, for folks who might have joined a few days ago, basically after 7 days of being on Career Karma, you get a chance to submit your profile for fast track, and if you get approved, you'll get matched with various programs, and Thinkful is one of our partners. And basically, you'll be able to track your application process and the important things, the important milestones from inside of Career Karma. But I wanted to hear from Jessica a little bit, kind of like what are the main steps in the process that someone that wants to go for with Thinkful, what should they be prepared for?
Yeah, on our website, there's a lot of information, even for each individual course. If you're not quite sure which course you want, that's okay. We have basically a couple of different ways to get a hold of us. You can either hit a button that says request a call on any of the course pages, or you can apply. Either way, we will be reaching out to you very quickly to connect you with an advisor who can talk to you either about your specific situations, your curiosity of your background, and which course would be the best fit. We can take your application over the phone, or if you already know which course you'd like, you can go ahead and just hit that apply button. Fill out the application. It's a really quick type form. There's 2 parts to it. You can complete it in less than 20 minutes. And then we will be reaching out to talk to you about your background and your goals to make sure it aligns with the course, as well as kind of the next steps. The courses that have schedules, so the synchronous courses like Engineering Immersion and Nights and Weekends, they have very specific start dates. And so if you are considering one of those courses, my suggestion is apply immediately so that you can get ahead of deadlines, because you will need to be accepted, do the prep course, and complete the tech eval before the day the course starts. So the sooner we can get ahead of when you want to start, the better. We even have people who are currently applying for October. So we are happy to have those conversations and square everything away sooner than later. And then for the flexible courses, those have a rolling start date or a rolling enrollment. Every Wednesday, we start new students. So if you are considering one of those, we can definitely talk about the features and benefits or learning preferences you may have and which one will better suit that on a conversation. But if you know which course you want, I would suggest go ahead and applying, and we can move you through the application process, which is just getting to know you, aligning it with the course, and making sure your expectations of the course can be met by us, that it's a good fit for you just as much as you are for us.
Yeah. No, that's great. And when I open it up for questions, I'm sure people are going to have like specific questions about the admissions process. Someone asked about the job placement, and that's something that if you could chat a little bit about kind of your what type of support do students get during the job placements, and what are some of the outcomes that you could share with us?
Yeah, absolutely. So our career services is something that I think we take a lot of pride in here at Thinkful. We go well above and beyond traditional education's career services. So not only will you get matched with a career coach, very similarly as you do with a industry professional as a mentor, we will match you with a recruiter who is a career coach, and they're going to be there to complete applications, do unlimited technical interviews, make introductions on your behalf into our employment network, work, and ultimately every week meet with you one-on-one to really narrow in on what your job prospects are and maybe what your roadblocks are. So if you think about when it's time to get a job and think about all the steps you have to do so many applications, do so many phone screens, do so many first interviews, second interviews, and then negotiation of the offer. So sometimes we see someone who will get specifically stuck in one little step. So maybe you're applying to a lot of places, having a lot of phone screens, but not getting invited to the first interviews. Our career coaches will actually reach out to all of the recruiters and speak to them specifically about why you weren't selected. And then we'll bring that feedback back so that we can work together on maybe a soft skill, or maybe there was something else that we weren't aware of that was blocking this, so that we can get you through those blockers faster. The career services is available to all students, no matter what location they're in, for up to 6 months after completing the course. So you really do build that relationship with that career coach, if you can imagine.
Yeah.
And you know, I think just to lead in on that one too, that's one of the reasons why I joined Thinkful, is because of our focus on our outcomes. And I think Jessica already mentioned this a little bit, but you know, you don't necessarily get that from a traditional 4-year college. They're not. Their focus is not to provide those outcomes. We are in a unique place where we are actually in business because we can provide those outcomes, and we wouldn't be if we can't provide them. Mm-hmm. So for us, we really that's a huge focus for us, is to make sure that that we are providing a very solid career services component.
Yeah, that's great. And can you share the average salary? Because you guys are part of CIR. So this is like a Council of Integrity results. I believe that's what it stands for. But basically, you publish your data around student outcomes every 6 months. So can you share, like, maybe from the latest report, what the average graduate salary is, and what is the job placement rate 3 months and 6 months out of the bootcamp?
Yeah, so we definitely publish everything. You can get that on our website as well. They are different per course, so I can just give a general kind of estimate to everyone. 90% of our EI grads are hired as full-time devs. We actually break down the timeline of what that looks like. Like 50% of them are within 1 month of completing, and then 90% of them are within 5 months of completing. So as far as income level goes, it's really hard to give a general expectation because there's a lot of different things that can lead into that. Someone could have previous experiences, or choose the difference between maybe a startup and they're getting a lot of shares versus a really big company like Intel and they're not getting a lot of shares, so their salary is much higher. So it's really hard to give an expectation of a very specific salary. We do get reports back that the average yearly salary increase is above 19,000 per year. But with that being said, we do have a lot of data around salaries in specific cities, and instead of trying to give a blanket one, because it's going to be very different in San Francisco versus someone in Iowa versus someone in Phoenix and then New York, they're all very different from each other. So I would encourage to talk to an advisor, because we do have the data around your specific area. We are willing to share it. I just don't want to set someone's expectation improperly by giving a general national number. Yeah,
for sure. We appreciate that. And then in terms of, someone was asking about the prep course. I think you mentioned something about the prep course, but do you guys have one, and how can people learn more about it?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Engineering Immersion and Nights and Weekends both have a prep course, because we want the students day one to be level set at the same level. So if you are going to be applying for a synchronous program, you will have a a prep course. The asynchronous programs, the flexible ones that are a little bit more autonomous and that you can accelerate through, those don't have prep courses. However, you're not missing out on anything. All the prep course curriculum is included in that curriculum.
Mm-hmm. That's great. And then can you also touch on the job guarantee, the 6-month job guarantee? I think that's something that's unique about Thinkful. So just share with the folks kind of how that works.
Yeah, absolutely. So to be clear, the job guarantee doesn't really apply to an income share agreement or living stipend because you don't pay anything if you don't get a job. Where the job guarantee is basically stating if you complete the course within the course timeline. So Full Stack Flex has a 6-month timeline. If you complete the course within 6 months, we will guarantee that you will get a job within 6 months of completing it. Or your money back. That's how much we not only believe in the skills and curriculums that we are teaching, but also in our career services. There are some stipulations around that. You can download that on our website. It's down by the payments. You'll see a link that just says job guarantee. It'll take you to a PDF, and you can see that it also has city stipulations, so you need to be within an hour of certain cities. It is specifically different for data science than all the web development and product design courses. And there are stipulations of things like once you've completed the course, you need to fill out 7 applications a week, those type of things. But all of those details are available to download as a PDF. And we really do believe in if you show up and do the work, we're going to show up and do the work with you and help you secure that job.
Cool. Yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, so let's actually open up for questions. And Jordan, you could be the first one. Go ahead.
All right, so I want to backtrack a little bit. You said for the national, like you were talking about the admissions, like for all the students that go in, you said about something about 50% for those that complete the first month, and then 90% that complete up to the 5th month.
So I think she meant that the folks that graduate, 50% of them find a job within the first month, right?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
It's
I thought you said 50% of the admissions.
No, I'm sorry.
So yeah, I think she mentioned that. So folks that graduate, they 50% find a job within the first month. And then you said 90% within the
5th month.
6 months. Yeah, but obviously these are like, it's like a general stats. So it's going to vary by geography and things like that and by your background. But that's just like a rough metric just to reference as you're thinking about it.
I was like a bit skeptical back there. I was like, oh my God, only 50% of people get through it.
No, I'm sorry. Yeah. And those outcomes are on our website. We have the header that says outcomes and you can see everything. We really believe in transparency. And it's also important to know that our outcomes are despite guarantee, despite what city those people live in. So this includes rural areas as well.
Cool. Yeah. Any other questions? Let's hear some. I know there's a lot in the chat, so if you want to unmute your mic and go ahead and ask Mariah or Jessica any questions.
So just one more question.
All right, Jordan, last one.
All right. All right. So I don't know, like I've tried online curriculum-driven courses before, and I've never seemed to be able to like get through it. Like I always like finish halfway through and I'm like, man, I can't understand what's going on. Now, is there like a trial like for the first week to see how it is?
So I should mention that all of our courses, we have kind of a refund period, which goes up to your second mentor session. So if after your second mentorship, which could be anywhere from a week to a week and a half, depending on matching in the schedule, if you decide this is not for me, you can withdraw and we would refund you 100%. Once you continue on to your third mentor session, we consider that you've you've made the decision to stay. But I do want to point out to something that Mariah had mentioned earlier. In your case, where you have said, I've worked on online, I fall behind, I would suggest that.
Sorry, guys, I'm gonna mute everyone. So, 1 second. I think there was.
Guys, Cowboys all day.
1 sec. Let me mute all.
No Giants. I mean, no midgets. No midgets.
Okay. Jessica, can you unmute yourself now?
Yep. So in the case of you, Jordan, I would actually say you should probably explore the engineering immersion or the nights and weekends course, because it sounds like what was missing was that structure that was kind of built around it. And that's what we see in nights and weekends and engineering immersion, where people who've maybe tried to learn something online and struggled, that oftentimes they find success when they're in those type of structured courses. Does that make sense?
And I'd add to that, we have students work on capstone projects together in the engineering immersion and the nights and weekends program. So you're actually building something of pretty significant weight, and you're working with people that are also in the same position that you're in. So it's very much it feels very team oriented, and you're not in that self-paced kind of environment that you may have struggled with in the past.
And another benefit. Sorry.
I have a question just about starting the program. I don't know anything about programming. Like, how do I start? Am I just going in blind?
Yeah, so there's a couple of different options there. Full Stack Flex is very beginner friendly, so you could absolutely enter the Full Stack Flex without any previous experience. The difference is someone who maybe has some experience, has written HTML, CSS before, has a intro or beginning understanding of JavaScript, they may go faster in their first few weeks because it's familiar and they're going to be able to whiz through it. But we didn't want to make any assumptions of someone's previous experience or understanding when creating that course, versus the engineering immersion and nights and weekends course. That's what that prep course is for, is to really prepare you to get that intro knowledge up front before the class starts. Also, if you are coming in with a lot of experience, maybe you have done some JavaScript and you really do understand it, but you need to kind of round out your education, or you want to dive further into backend and how front end, back end work together and really get into more computer science fundamentals, which is also covered in our course, then we do have the option that you can kind of test out of the prep course, where you can, if you answer a few questions, we can skip the prep course and have you do a technical eval. If you pass that, you can opt out of the prep course. So we have a couple of different options for skill level coming into the course. And this is something that the advisors, the admission advisors, when they talk to you, are going to be asking you questions around, so that we are giving you the best experience for your past experience as well as your goals.
Thank you. I didn't really catch on that it was a prep course. Thank you.
Yep.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I wanted to know, like, in the engineering immersion, right? Y'all have the data science and the data analytics, right? Which, I mean, I know that's used for cybersecurity, but do y'all have any programs that's specific to cybersecurity?
Not yet. That is definitely something that's been discussed as a possible additional curriculum that could come out with on the roadmap, but not currently. And I don't think either of our courses, data analytics, data science, or web development, would actually set you up for success to be employed in data security. So I don't want any false pretenses there.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah.
But it is one of our most requested courses, so I'm hoping it'll come soon.
Definitely. Thank you.
Yeah.
Jessica, in regards to your prep course, is that offered only after you're accepted, or is your prep course something that you could take prior to being accepted into the program?
So it is only offered after being accepted and securing financing. It is a considerable endeavor. We have our mentors. They are matched with you. It's the full experience of meeting with the mentors one-on-one, getting all of the support, and getting through the curriculum. So current state, it is something that we have people go through if they've been accepted. I know we've had some discussion about putting together some sort of pre-intro curriculum that's open to everyone, and I think that's being worked on, but we haven't, I don't have a specific date when that's going to be launching yet.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I that is something that I'm exploring right now, is some kind of free curriculum that we can offer prior to joining into trial.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, we definitely have a lot of folks who are interested in that, so we'll be eagerly waiting.
Yeah.
I have another question.
All right, let's hear it.
All right, for the income sharing, right? Even though I think I may have the answer to this, but I understand that if we don't find a job, then we don't have to pay anything just for the time being. But and I know that it's not specifically a loan, but in that case, are we still considered to be in debt?
I do understand what you're asking. So one thing that's a little different with the income share agreement or living stipend is our career services will work with you until you get a job. So if they'll work past 6 months if needed, but mostly that's not needed. We see in our outcomes that people are employed.
Yeah, I think something to add to about kind of just how income sharing works. If let's say you lose a job after 3 months, or let's say your family member gets sick and you want to quit your job and spend time with them, in those situations it's different from debt where you don't need to make any payments. And the income sharing, typically there's a confined period during which you're expected to pay back. Maybe you could share like how many years after graduating the income sharing, what is the payback period, but what is it for Thinkful?
So as an example, engineering immersion, it's 15% of your income for 3 years, or up to 24,000. That does have an expectation that your job is paying you $40,000 a year or more, which all of these jobs really are above that, so that shouldn't be a concern. I would need to go into a little bit finer details to see. I know that if you were to start a job and maybe lose it, they pause the payments until you get another job. I do not know how long that is. I would need to dive in a little bit deeper into the details to find that out.
So,
yeah, I have it in front of me, but I think it'd be better actually to have a conversation with an admissions advisor to dive into that specifically.
Yeah. Cool.
okay.
But basically, I think the big difference between income sharing and debt is that you're paying a percentage of your income. So if you lose the income, you don't need to pay back. And there's a finite amount. You're not gonna own 15% for the rest of your life. There's usually a term, like in your agreement, there's gonna say whether it's 5 years or 7 years or like some other number of up to this point you pay back, and then after that time you don't owe them. You kind of move on. But again, speak to your career advisor, and I think that they will help clarify a lot of those questions. Yeah. What else do folks want to know?
I just had a question. I'm from Pomona, California. So the immersion is I'm only for an hour from Los Angeles, California. That's the one that you get the extra income for people that don't have jobs and we're going full time.
Yep, there's the living stipend. Yes, for LA, you're within an hour, so you would qualify.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, I'm about 40 miles from it, Los Angeles, from Pomona, California. So I'm close.
That's perfect.
Wonderful. That's what I'm unemployed right now, so I like to get the schooling started as soon as possible. But that was the roadblock that I've been having. I'm like, okay, I'm unemployed, but I want to go full time to school.
Yeah.
And about the income, I was talking to one of your admissions excuse me, I forgot her name. My question was, because I don't have a laptop currently and being unemployed, I mean, is there any way, resources that I can get a hold of a laptop without throwing all kinds of money down?
Yeah, so this question has come up a few times. With the living stipend, it really, that money doesn't start coming to you until course starts, and you have to do a prep course beforehand. So we have always suggested that you can use, like borrow someone's laptop, find one that's inexpensive on Craigslist, as long as it has the most up-to-date, if it's within the last 5 years, has an up-to-date operating system, then you will be able to complete the work. But as soon as you get that first living stipend check, you can absolutely spend that on a laptop. That's what it's there for, is to help with living expenses as well as expenses to go through the course. So unfortunately, we don't have a way of like starting those payments before course starts. We don't have any like laptop loaners at this time. I will be really clear about this, like using a public computer like one at the library wouldn't work, because those sometimes are restricted on websites, and you also wouldn't be able to download any programs that we would need you to download. So it does need to be an open laptop that allows you to download programs.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because that was going to be my alternative.
No
Going
worries.
to the library. So I'm so glad you said that. I wasn't too sure, because the business that we're learning, I was like, I don't want anybody to get my dividend information.
Something that so because Career Karma is a community, we've helped dozens of people get laptops. We usually have companies that will donate their laptops to Career Karma, and we try to like ship them out like as soon as we get them. And so something that if you need a laptop, we are kind of running short of them, because we've been kind of helping a lot of students with these donated laptops. But reach out to Timur, who is my co-founder on the app, and then he can let you know if we have any available. And since you're also on Twitter, we've seen a lot of folks have success with just making a tweet and saying, hey, I'm super passionate about learning to code and doing a coding bootcamp, but I don't have a laptop. And you'll be surprised. We've had tons of people who will obviously Career Karma will help amplify it and promote it. And we've had tons of people who donated their old laptops to folks. So as long as you have that intention to go forward, we'll help you make it happen. Because we've never seen anyone not do a bootcamp because they didn't have a laptop. We'll help you figure that out. I think you could still go through and apply and go through the admissions process to get either conditionally accepted or fully accepted, and then you could then it'll make your case a lot stronger, because it shows that you're serious, that you really mean to do this.
Right.
Yeah. And I should clarify, our acceptances do not expire. If there was a really long period of time, like 90 days, we'd probably just want to touch base. Financing, we would choose to, so if you were to come through and get accepted so that you could get help, it's not like in 30 days or 60 days, we wouldn't honor that acceptance.
Okay. Is a tablet like a taboo to use?
Yeah, unfortunately, you can't download software on tablets.
I have one of those, on a tablet. I was telling the lady that I have a public regamer. What do you call that? Asus, but I need a charger, which costs $80.
Yeah.
That's all I need. I mean, this Asus. Am I saying it right? Asus Republic Gamer computer is just awesome. It's already all tweaked with the Geek Squad. I haven't used it in like a year, but everything's all primo. I keep it primo. I just need that new the charger for it, which I had to go through the manufacturer company to get it.
Yeah. So we could help you. We'll help you get a laptop. I would focus on. So there's some mobile coding games too, and coding apps like Grasshopper that will help you prepare and learn the basics of JavaScript, HTML. There's also another app called SoloLearn. So you could actually learn on your phone or your tablet. And
what do you guys think of Program Hub?
I'm not familiar with them specifically, but don't let a laptop stop you. And once you, especially if you complete the 21-day challenge and you go through it, we'll help you. I mean, we have now over 20,000 people in our community, and we literally see tons of people donating their old laptops to each other. So we'll help you. We'll help make it happen. Cool.
And there's another question here from Cindy, and I was just typing it out here, but it might be easier just to address it. So Cindy, you mentioned that you finished the 21-day challenge, received a conditional acceptance through Fast Track, and you're wondering how long it will take before someone reaches out to you from our admissions team. So right now we're actually working with Career Karma to develop that handshake between us and Career Karma. And but we're currently working on it, so you should expect somebody to reach out to you. I think we're just trying to nail down the language between what conditional acceptance is, whether you've actually applied through us directly. So you should be hearing from us soon. If you haven't already applied directly with Thinkful, I'd recommend doing that right away.
Yeah.
And I did privately send Cindy a message. But if anyone has a concern that they have done a step and have not heard back, please email me directly.
Yeah.
I have access to our database. So I gave Sydney my email saying, email me, I'll look up your application and ensure that we're reaching out ASAP.
Yeah.
Sometimes those things end up in spam, so maybe we have, and, you know, it's a good practice for us to check in on that.
Yeah, definitely. And I'll just add it in terms of Fast Track. So the first step of Fast Track is usually going to the school's website and actually submitting your application, because they need to get your information. Since Career Karma is an app, there's certain sensitive information that we don't collect about you for like privacy reasons. So we do ask, we have worked out a deal with Thinkful, but we do ask you to go on their website and fill out an application and just mention to the admissions person that you're coming from Career Karma, and you'll get like a special treatment. Okay.
Okay, thank you for answering that.
Yeah.
And I just want to point out that I have already gone and separately submitted an application, and I did that previous to being getting the conditional acceptance through Fast Track. So that's why I was wondering how long it would take, because I already did both the steps.
Yeah, so it normally takes 1 business day. So if you haven't heard back, that means something's wrong. So if you email me, I can track down what happened and rectify it and get you in touch with an advisor tomorrow. But I do need to check on what happened to your application if we haven't already started reaching out. And again, it could be as simple as, you didn't know that was our number when we called, or it went to your spam. But I do want to kind of trace our process and make sure it didn't get stuck somewhere.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Cool. Can you we didn't touch on the, like, I guess some of the companies that Thinkful grads work at, and maybe you could give us a sense for the types of companies. What are the different, you mentioned like big companies, small companies, but also geographically, are you seeing any patterns for folks in big cities or rural areas?
Yeah, so we have relationships or students who have been hired at Boeing, Intel, Amazon, Google, IBM, Walmart Labs, Facebook, all of the big, companies that people have kind of know, or household names, quote unquote. But in most of our cities across the U.S., including the ones that we don't have listed as communities, we have built up relationships with maybe household names in your area, but like I am in Phoenix. So as an example, there's a company out here called WebPT. No one else would know that unless you're here in Phoenix, but like we have a relationship with them, that type of thing. So that is something that if you wanted to better understand what startups, what tech companies in your area that we've have either relationships with or have students who have been hired there, we do have internal lists of those things. It's not something we publish. So we can definitely, while talking to an advisor, they can get that information for you and share some of those examples.
And just to add on to that, we also, there is a lot happening around remote work these days. So that's an opportunity for a lot of students that they can actually find work with companies who are 100% remote, which Thinkful happens to be one of them. But there are a lot more companies that are finding that's the better model for them. So those are always opportunities.
Nice.
If I think last time I checked on the data on that, we were at about remote or partially remote was about 20%.
Nice. Cool. Sounds good. I think we're gonna start wrapping up. Maybe one or two more questions. But I think before because I'm seeing that some folks are dropping off. Maybe Jessica, Mariah, you could share your Twitter handles or like best ways for folks to get in touch with you. Because I know our community is pretty active on Twitter. So if there's any ways folks can follow you, or obviously follow Thinkful, I'm gonna put the Twitter for Thinkful. But what's the best way for folks to get in touch with you?
Yeah, so my email is jessica@thinkful.com, spelled the traditional way, Jessica.
Yeah.
My Twitter specifically is not applicable to this,
Okay.
to boot camps, unfortunately.
I would
Okay, you can tell me.
I'd probably say the same.
I won't write.
I'd probably say same with me. Mine's more focused on education in general and less on Thinkful as a program. So I think probably getting in touch with me would be mariah.howard@thinkful.com. And I'm pretty active on LinkedIn, and I think it's probably the best way to reach me.
Yeah, I'm also very active on LinkedIn as well.
Yeah.
But my Twitter is very much focused on operations.
Yeah, for sure. But I would say for folks who did enjoy this AMA, please tweet at Career Karma at Thinkful, share something that you've learned, because it does help amplify. And then for folks who've missed it, they'll just have another reason to check it out. And maybe if you could share one thing that you found interesting that Mariah or Jessica shared, I think it will be really helpful for the community. And yeah, let's do one more question before we wrap up.
I'm sorry, dude. It's just I'm making sure that I'm getting it 100%.
By the way, what is your background? Are you on a movie set or something?
Can I have your wallpaper?
Yeah,
I was waving. I got nothing here. That looks awesome.
Yeah. All right. So the last question. So I've been looking into a lot of boot camps. Most of the boot camps I've been looking at are the same 40 to 60 hours a week, but they do it in about 3 to 4 months. So is the 6-month period reinforce the curriculum, or just to make sure that your students do graduate knowing what's going on instead of just on a whim?
Yeah, our focus is really on employment, our outcomes, being employed, and not just getting your job, but being able to maintain and sustain it as a career. So the best way I can kind of compare it to is learning conversational language versus having a deeper knowledge of the language, of a foreign language. Really, we want you to have a robust portfolio. We want you to be very confident and be able to nail your technical interviews. And while you can learn a lot of things very quickly, the depth of that knowledge is challenging when it's that quickly.
Yeah, I would totally echo that. And you really can't, the group projects that our students work on, they really become part of your portfolio, and they're huge components to that, and help enormously when you're having conversations with employers about what did I really do, what did I build.
Yeah, and part of coding, I don't know if you'll agree with this, but part of coding is muscle memory, teaching yourself the workflow, not just the actual language, but how do I do this? What is the typical 2-week sprint? What is the workflow of collaborating together in teams? Those type of things. The more you get to do it, the more proficient you get no one's going to become Mozart in 3 weeks kind of thing. So yeah.
The thing I could add to that is that the way I reinforce the knowledge I learn is that if I can't physically teach it to someone else, then I didn't really understand what was going on.
Great. That's something that we highlight people being able to do. And if that's something that you feel comfortable doing, that's that it sounds like you might have great success in our prep program, because that would be something that you'd be developing, and then you'd be moving forward into one of our other programs.
Cool. Sounds good. Great questions, Jordan. I like the enthusiasm. Cool. Well, let's give a round of applause for Jessica and Mariah. Let me unmute everyone so we can actually hear everyone. Hold on. There you go. Yeah, but thank you so much.
I'm holding my cell phone, so yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, and definitely check out Thinkful's website. They have all this information on their website, and you have the emails in chat to reach out to Mariah or Jessica if you have any more questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks for having us.
All right. Thank you. Have a good one.